It's not enough, eh? It's not enough. It's not enough to paint a sidewalk. It's not enough to hang a flag in the window. It's not enough to put a statement in the front entryway that says we acknowledge the people who were on this land before we took it from them. It's not enough. It's not enough to have 1 month. It's not enough to have a day for people to celebrate in the park with such joy because they feel seen and accepted as who they are, knowing that every other day of the year they may face abuse or hate and hate for who they are. It's not enough. It's not enough for us to sit here comfortably on a Sunday morning and listen to me talk about how it's not enough, or indeed to talk about how Jesus says it's not enough. It's not enough to sit here and listen to stories about how Jesus helped people and go away feeling perhaps refreshed or inspired or not. This morning you might be pleased to get outside because it's cooler there than it is in here. Let's turn it up a bit, though. It's not enough. It's not enough to just be 1 day, 1 hour, and not live that the rest of the week. Now, we tell these stories about Jesus helping people, and we tell these stories about how somehow the power of Jesus magically helped people. The point of Jesus is to show you can do that too. And I think we left out some really key and important parts, like, say, Jesus saying to people, "How are you? Tell me your story." I don't think the healing was magic. I think the healing was people at least feeling like they were seen for who they are. The real healing was the wholeness of knowing that being you is okay, needed, celebrated, important, because whatever part of the body you are, you're not just needed. You're important. You're celebrated. I think we talk about that endlessly in church. I hope we talk about that endlessly in church. In fact, I'm not particularly known for quoting people, but I'm going to quote a few people today. I'm just out of words of my own. Thank you to the people who helped clean up the sidewalk a week ago and repaint it. It actually needed repainting, so thank you. It will need repainting again and again and again and again. Thank you. The best wisdom I heard that day came from Graham when he said, at least it was a sidewalk and not a person who was at risk, because we can repaint the sidewalk. And thank you to the people who repainted it. I appreciate that, and I say this with the utmost appreciation. It's not enough. It's still not enough. MLK, right? It's not the words of our enemies we'll remember. It's the silence of our friends. It's not okay to say, well, they didn't mean that, or we'll excuse that and vote for them anyway because they're going to give us what we want. I'm not just talking about where we live, that is around the world. Or take, in the case of some countries, it's not a question of electing, it's a question of taking power, because you can, and have power over people and get your way. It's not okay. And it's not enough to just say, it's not okay. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough to just say or even think. And it's not a criticism that we're not doing enough, so much as we can never do enough. I think that's part of what Jesus is teaching is you can't ever do enough. I think, because we've been taught this, somehow Jesus has power that we don't. Because Jesus is the Son of God and has this divine power that none of the rest of us have. So we cannot ever be Jesus. We cannot ever live up to that. We can't live up to Paul. We can't live up to any of the saints. That's why we make figures of them and put them up in places and name things after them. We can't live up to that, so why try? The point is, yes, you can, and you should. Jesus never said, don't try because you'll just fail. You're never going to be as good as me. The whole point of Jesus, and we say Jesus is our example. Jesus is who we follow. Yes, but because everything that Jesus does and shows us in all of these stories, we are capable of. Will we be successful at it 100% of the time? No, we will not. Neither was Jesus, by the way. Didn't stop him from trying. It's not enough, and it won't ever be enough. And I know now you want to say, well, if it's not ever going to be enough, our life is about living into that not enough part. That's the story of Jesus. The divine spirit and very humanness that is in Jesus is in all of us. We live forward. We live out into the world. We build these walls so that we can't let that stuff out, because we're protecting ourselves, right? We just sang about coloring outside the lines. When are we going to do that? And if you have been, this is not a criticism. It's what we should be doing. It's how we should be living. Paul makes a really good point. It's a really great metaphor. And by the way, he did not come up with it. It was already in common use. It'd been in common use for a long time. You know why? Because it's true. That's why. It's absolutely true. Look at yourself. Hang on a second before you look at yourself. Try looking at yourself without all of that crap that society dumps on you as to what you ought to look like. Look at you for a second. See, because we all have all that stuff, right? We have an idea of how we ought think things ought to look like this. I know how I ought to look like, at least how society thinks I should look like. You all do too, I'm sure. And the moment we start doing that, society sees us a particular way, don't they? Have you noticed then since I have been, well, I can't even say since, no, I'm going to say within the last 5 years probably. Remember when I used to wear an alb and a stole and everything? And then I stopped wearing that and I just wore a collar? Remember those good old days when I used to wear a collar? Did you wonder why I stopped? Or when? It's when they started finding graves. It's when they started finding graves, and we also found out that the Roman Catholic Church managed to get out of their compensation as part of the whole reconciliation deal. I wanted to wear a collar because I grew up Anglican. It was a nod to my tradition that I came from. I stopped wearing it because I realized that people started to see me as a particular thing instead of me at a uniform. Doesn't mean I'm not a human being. Doesn't mean I have superpowers. Doesn't mean I'm anything else, for that matter. This is part of what this is about. Being true to who we are. And it's not just about you and I being true to who we are. It's about everyone having that opportunity and being encouraged and supported in doing that. And if their journey takes way longer than you or I, they still get that support the whole journey long. We all do. They still get that encouragement. They still get that willingness to stand up for them and support them and say, you don't get to hate people because they believe that being true to themselves means something you don't like. The world is full of enough hate already. We got to do more about that. We got to do more about that. See, it's not just about the specific issues of things that we hate. It's about hate itself. Hate's not an opinion. It's something that grows out of experience and what society shows us, what others show us. It grows out of fear and ignorance. What are you going to do about that? So, as I'm sure we're all aware, because we all read our Bible, Jesus famously said, this is a global phenomenon, and we can just fix it by fixing the big picture. So he got rid of the Romans and wiped out hate, and the world was a better place. That isn't what happened, is it? Because Jesus didn't do that. What he tried to do was make better people who would make a better world. That's why we're here, isn't it? To make better people. It's not about traditions and beliefs and things, really. It's about making better people who will realize the good that is in them and live that into the world with kindness and love and compassion and grace. All of the things that Jesus did. And for the part of the world for whom it's not about Jesus, it doesn't mean it's any less about love and kindness and compassion and the good which is inherently in us. Imagine how different the world would be if we could change the experiences that turn that goodness to things like hate and fear and ignorance, whether that's willful or not. I don't want to know. I don't care who you are or how you are. You just go be you. I don't care. Yes, you do, and you better. If you are a follower of Jesus or anyone who believes in kindness, compassion, and grace in the world, you care. You offer support and encouragement, and you learn and understand, and you care. When people are struggling, you find empathy and you care. When people are trying to find their way, you help them on their journey. You don't tell them where to go, you help them on their journey. We need to stop looking at the stories of Jesus as some sort of interesting thing from the past that might give us a few pro tips on how to behave, and instead see them as we are Jesus in every story. We are capable of being Jesus in every story. Success or failure, we are capable. And we have to be, because the oneness that is this body is only whole when every part feels like it is part of the body and feels healthy and well for what part they are, for who they are. It's really easy to focus on Paul's words about how we're parts. Yeah, it's fascinating. And we even like sidebars on things like, what part are you? That used to always, whenever I read this scripture passage, that was always my go-to first point. What part are you? What part are the people sitting around you? I know, some of them aren't good parts, are they? We still need them. Doesn't change anything. We still need them. We need each other. Because the most important part of that passage of Scripture isn't all that stuff before, it's the bit at the end. When one part suffers, we all do. When one part celebrates and has joy, we all do. That's where we find the wholeness. The wholeness of community, the wholeness of the individual within the community, the wholeness which is each of us, divine and human, living into the good that is in us and being who we truly are. You don't get a month for that. You get a lifetime for that.